In 1986, the nuclear accident at 3 Mile Island left a dark legacy. Years later, scientists went to investigate the site. Observing how the wildlife had fared after the disaster, they were astonished. The scientists found something no one else believed. Before hearing this astonishing account, remember to subscribe to the channel. The orange light of dusk painted the sky above the old power plant as Emily Thompson adjusted her measuring equipment. At 32, the Russian biologist had dedicated the last 5 years of her life to studying flora mutations in the exclusion zone. Her brown hair, tied in a careful ponytail, swayed in the gentle breeze as she recorded the day's final readings. "Dr. Thompson, you need to see this." The voice of her assistant Michael sounded urgent over the radio. Emily furrowed her brow, noting the agitation in his usually calm tone. "What is it, Michael?" she replied, already packing her instruments into her backpack. "The trees, they're different. I'm in Sector B7 near the old hospital complex." Emily began walking quickly in the indicated direction, her footsteps echoing in the silence of the abandoned forest. As she approached, she noticed something strange. A bluish glow emanated from among the trees, as if small stars had descended to Earth. When she reached the spot, she found Michael frozen, staring intently at a group of ancient pine trees. The trees emitted a soft, pulsating light that seemed to follow a rhythmic pattern. Emily pulled out her camera and began photographing the phenomenon, her hands trembling slightly. "Have you ever seen anything like this before?" asked Michael, his voice barely a whisper. "Never," replied Emily, cautiously approaching one of the trees. As she touched the trunk, she felt a subtle vibration, as if the plant was responding to her touch. "This is impossible." A deep, resonant sound reverberated through the forest, causing the two scientists to exchange glances. It was as if the Earth itself was awakening from a long slumber. On the horizon, above the old power plant, multicolored lights danced in the sky, forming intricate geometric patterns. "Emily, look!" Michael pointed to a group of wolves emerging from the vegetation. The animals, larger than normal, had eyes that glowed with the same bluish intensity as the trees. Instead of attacking, the wolves sat in a circle around the scientists as if they were observing. Emily pulled out her notebook, her hands now steady, driven by scientific curiosity. "Michael, prepare the sample collection equipment. This could be the biggest discovery since we started studying this region." One of the wolves, seemingly the leader, tilted its head to the side, its eyes fixed on Emily. For a moment she could have sworn she saw intelligence in that gaze, something beyond human comprehension. "Dr. Thompson," called Michael, his voice trembling, "I think we should report this to the base." Emily nodded in agreement, but before she could respond, a new sound echoed through the forest. This time a melodic and ethereal chant that seemed to come from all directions at once. The glowing trees pulsed in sync with the music, and the wolves began to howl in perfect harmony. "This isn't natural," Emily murmured, turning on her radiation meter. To her surprise, the device was completely dead. All the electronic equipment stopped working. The sky above them began to transform, the dancing lights now forming a vortex of impossible colors. Elena felt her heart race. In 15 years of scientific research, she had never witnessed anything like this. "Mikhail, we need to document all of this. Grab the analog camera from the backpack," she ordered, not taking her eyes off the supernatural spectacle unfolding before her. The next morning, Elena could barely contain her excitement as she presented the previous night's findings to Dr. Victor Reynolds, the director of the research project. The gray-haired scientist with thin-rimmed glasses observed the analog photographs with an enigmatic expression. "Fascinating," he murmured, adjusting his glasses. "And you say all the electronic equipment stopped working?" "Exactly," confirmed Elena, spreading her notes across the table. "And that wasn't all. The wolves, they displayed completely abnormal behavior. It was as if they were communicating something." Victor stood up from his chair and walked over to the map of the exclusion zone pinned to the wall. With a red marker, he circled the area where Elena and Mikhail had made their observations. "In recent months, we've received similar reports from other teams," he revealed, marking a few more points on the map. "Here, here, and here. Always near dusk, always with the same pattern of lights." Eleanor approached the map, her eyes scanning the markings. "They form a perfect pentagon," she observed, tracing imaginary lines between the points. "Precisely," agreed Victor. "And at the center of that pentagon, the old power plant," Elena finished, feeling a shiver run down her spine. At that moment, Michael burst through the office door, breathless. "Dr. Thompson, Dr. Reynolds, you need to see this." Following Michael to the main laboratory, they found a small crowd of researchers gathered around a microscope. Hannah Johnson, the head botanist, motioned for Elena to come closer. "The samples you collected yesterday," Anna began, her voice trembling with excitement. "The cells, they're behaving in an impossible way." Elena leaned over the microscope and nearly lost her breath. The plant cells pulsed with a bluish light, similar to what they had observed in the forest, and seemed to reorganize themselves into complex patterns. "This defies all the laws of biology we know," Anna whispered. "It's as if the cells are dancing." A sudden tremor shook the laboratory, making the test tubes clink. Through the windows, they could see a group of deer crossing the perimeter of the research base, something that had never happened before. The animals had the same glowing eyes as the wolves from the previous night. "They're getting closer and closer to human settlements," Victor observed, his voice filled with concern. Elena noticed something even stranger. Small plants were beginning to sprout from the cracked concrete in the courtyard, growing at an impossible speed. Within minutes, flowers of unknown species bloomed, all emitting that characteristic glow. "Dr. Reynolds," called Emily, her scientific mind working furiously. What if the entire exclusion zone is turning into something new? Something we've never seen before. Before Victor could respond, the lab lights began to flicker and a familiar sound, that ethereal chant from the previous night, started echoing through the halls. The deer in the courtyard raised their heads in unison, as if responding to a silent call. "It's happening again," murmured Michael, his voice barely concealing his fear. Emily felt an inexplicable pull, an almost irresistible urge to follow that mysterious chant. Looking at her colleagues, she realized she wasn't the only one. Everyone seemed hypnotized by the supernatural melody. "We need to understand what's happening," Emily declared, determined. "And I think I know where to start." Victor nodded gravely. "Form a team," he ordered, "but be extremely cautious. Something tells me we're only scratching the surface of a much larger mystery." The expedition set out at dawn. Emily led the group, which included Michael, Anna, and a new member, Dr. Samuel Carter, a quantum physics expert who had recently arrived from Moscow. The sky had a peculiar hue with shades of green and purple blending into the clouds. "The growth patterns of the vegetation have changed drastically in the last 24 hours, Anna explained, consulting her tablet. "It's as if the plants are following their own mathematics." Samuel, a tall, slender man with piercing eyes, observed the plant formations intently. "These aren't random patterns," he commented, pulling a notebook from his pocket. "Look at this." The physicist began to draw quickly, replicating the patterns formed by the plants. Under his agile pencil, complex symbols emerged, equations, numerical sequences, and diagrams that seemed to dance across the page. "Impossible," whispered Emily, recognizing some of the formulas. "These are unified field equations. Advanced quantum physics theories expressed through living organisms." A soft noise caught the group's attention. A small group of foxes approached, their eyes emitting that familiar bluish glow. One of them, larger than the others, carried something in its mouth. "Don't move," instructed Emily, though the foxes showed no signs of aggression. The larger fox placed its object on the ground. It was a semi-transparent crystal, pulsing with the same light they had observed in the trees. Then the animal sat down, as if waiting for a reaction from the researchers. Samuel approached cautiously and examined the crystal. "This is extraordinary. The molecular structure must be completely unique." At that moment, the crystal began to vibrate, emitting a low hum. In the sky, the multicolored lights reappeared, but now they formed patterns that matched exactly the symbols Samuel had drawn. "They're trying to communicate," murmured Anna, her voice trembling with excitement. "But who are they?" A sudden wind blew through the forest, carrying with it that ethereal song. The trees began to sway in sync, their leaves dancing to the rhythm of the mysterious melody. The crystal in their hands pulsed more intensely. "Look!" exclaimed Michael, pointing toward the horizon. A massive figure emerged from among the trees, a gigantic bear larger than any specimen ever recorded. Its eyes glowed with a hypnotic intensity, and its fur seemed to reflect the lights of the sky in kaleidoscopic patterns. The bear approached slowly, the foxes respectfully making way. To everyone's surprise, it sat down just a few meters from the group, its eyes fixed on the crystal. "Emily," called Samuel, his voice low and controlled. "The crystal, it's responding to its presence." Indeed, the crystal now emitted pulses of light that seemed synchronized with the bear's breathing. In Samuel's notebook, the mathematical symbols appeared to come to life on their own, as if rewriting themselves. "We need to take this crystal to the lab," Emily decided. "If we can decode these patterns..." The bear let out a deep, almost musical sound, and the foxes responded in unison. It was as if the entire forest was participating in a complex and mysterious symphony. "It's not just a crystal," Anna observed, her eyes wide. "It's a key." "A key to what?" asked Michael. Before anyone could answer, the ground beneath their feet began to tremble softly. Small flowers sprouted instantly around the group, forming a perfect circle. Their petals, translucent like the crystal, reflected the lights of the sky in a hypnotic display. "To something far greater than we can imagine," Emily replied, sensing they were on the brink of a discovery that would forever change their understanding of the universe. The bear rose majestically and began to walk away, but not before casting one last meaningful glance at the group. The foxes followed, disappearing into the luminous vegetation. "Let's head back to the base," Emily decided. "We need to analyze this crystal and compare our notes. Something tells me we're about to uncover just the tip of the iceberg." As they walked back, none of them noticed that the plants around them had begun to form new patterns. This time, something resembling a star map of a region of the cosmos no human telescope had ever captured. In the main laboratory of the research base, the tension was palpable. The crystal found in the forest rested inside a special containment chamber, while dozens of sensors recorded its unique properties. Emily, Samuel, and Anna had been working tirelessly for hours, trying to decipher the data accumulating on their monitors. "The energy patterns are unlike anything I've ever seen," Samuel remarked, adjusting his instruments for the 10th time. "It's as if the crystal operates under completely unknown physical laws." Anna, hunched over her microscope, let out a surprised exclamation. "Come see this, the molecular structure. It's constantly reconfiguring itself." Emily quickly approached, peering through the lenses. The interior of the crystal seemed to contain a miniature universe, with patterns that moved and transformed like a microscopic cosmic dance. "Dr. Reynolds needs to see this," Emily murmured, reaching for the internal phone. However, before she could make the call, all the lights in the lab began to flicker intensely. The crystal emitted a pulse of bluish energy, and suddenly, three-dimensional holograms filled the air around them. They were star maps, complex diagrams, and symbols that floated and moved as if alive. "These are coordinates," Samuel exclaimed, his eyes gleaming with excitement as he scribbled furiously in his notebook. But not from anywhere on Earth. A familiar sound echoed through the corridors, the same ethereal song from the forest. Through the laboratory windows, they could see that all the plants around the perimeter of the base had begun to glow in sync with the crystal. "Emily," Anna called, her voice trembling. "Look at the sky." On the horizon, above the old power plant, an extraordinary phenomenon was unfolding. Dancing lights formed a massive circular pattern, identical to the diagrams projected by the crystal. Michael burst through the laboratory door, breathless. "You need to see this, the animals." "They're gathering." The group rushed to the monitoring room, where security cameras showed a surreal spectacle. Hundreds of animals, wolves, deer, foxes, and even the giant bear, were forming a perfect circle around the base. All their eyes glowed with that characteristic bluish light. "They're waiting for something," Emily whispered. At that moment, Dr. Reynolds entered the room carrying an old dusty file. "This might explain a few things," he said, spreading documents across the table. "I found it in the secret archives of the old administration." The papers revealed sketches and notes dating back decades, showing the same patterns they now saw in the sky and the crystal. "This started much earlier than we thought," Victor explained. The first signs appeared weeks before the incident at the plant. Are you suggesting that... Emily paused, her mind processing the implications. That perhaps the incident wasn't an accident, Victor finished. Perhaps it was a catalyst for something greater. The crystal in the containment chamber began to pulse more intensely, projecting new holograms. This time the images showed a sequence of events that seemed to unfold in the near future. "These are instructions," murmured Samuel, deciphering the symbols. "But for what?" A gentle tremor ran through the building, and all electronic equipment began to behave erratically. Through the windows, they could see that the lights in the sky had started to move in a spiral pattern. "I think we're about to find out," replied Emily, her voice barely concealing the mix of fear and fascination she felt. The forest song intensified, and the animals around the base began to emit sounds in perfect harmony with the supernatural melody. It was as if the entire exclusion zone was transforming into a massive musical instrument, playing a cosmic symphony that transcended human understanding. "We need to prepare," declared Emily, taking charge of the situation. "Something is about to happen, and we need to be ready to document every moment." What none of them knew was that their preparations would be futile in the face of the magnitude of the events about to unfold, events that would challenge not only their understanding of science, but of reality itself. Night fell over the exclusion zone, but darkness never arrived. The sky pulsed with impossible colors, while the forest's symphony reached a deafening crescendo. At the research base, Emily and her team worked frantically to record and comprehend the extraordinary events unfolding. "Radiation levels are fluctuating," shouted Anna over the noise, her eyes fixed on a monitor. "It's as if the atomic structure of the environment itself is rewriting." Samuel, who had spent the last few hours deciphering the symbols projected by the crystal, let out a surprised exclamation. "Emily, I think I understand. They're not just spatial coordinates, they're temporal too." "What does it mean?" asked Emily, quickly stepping closer. "The crystal..." "It's showing us events from the past, present, and future simultaneously," explained Samuel, his voice trembling with excitement. "It's as if time, for it, is malleable." A new tremor, stronger than the previous ones, shook the building. Through the windows they saw that the circle of animals around the base had begun to move, forming a complex spiral that mirrored the patterns in the sky. "Dr. Reynolds," called Michael, who was monitoring the external cameras. "Something is emerging from the ground near the old power plant." Everyone crowded around the monitors, watching in awe a scene that defied comprehension. From the cracked ground, enormous crystalline structures sprouted like alien trees, their surfaces reflecting and refracting the sky's lights in hypnotic patterns. "This is impossible," murmured Victor, his usual composure finally breaking. The crystal in the containment chamber began to vibrate violently, emitting pulses of energy that pierced through the laboratory walls as if they were made of paper. Suddenly, everyone present was enveloped in a bluish light, and the world around them seemed to change. Emily blinked, dazed, and realized they were no longer in the laboratory. They were standing in the middle of a glowing forest, surrounded by luminous animals. The gigantic bear stood ahead, its eyes fixed on the humans with an intelligence that went beyond comprehension. "Where are we?" asked Anna, her voice barely above a whisper. "When we are would be the more appropriate question," replied Samuel, pointing to the sky. Above them, the vortex of lights had transformed into a window to the cosmos, revealing galaxies and nebulae in an eternal dance. But it wasn't just space they saw. It was time unfolding before their eyes. "Welcome," a voice echoed in their minds, a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. "You are finally ready to understand." The bear stepped forward, and to everyone's astonishment, it began to transform. Its form dissolved into pure light, reshaping into an entity that defied description, part animal, part energy, part something beyond human comprehension. "What are you?" asked Emily, finding her voice. "We are the Guardians," replied the entity, its voice now coming from all the creatures around. "We come from a distant future, from a dying universe." 3 Mile Island was not an accident, but a portal, an anchor that allowed us to return and correct the course of history. The images in the sky shifted, showing a future ravaged by war and environmental destruction. "This is the fate we seek to avoid," continued the Guardian. "The radiation you feared was the catalyst for accelerated evolution, preparing this place for our arrival." Emily felt her mind expanding, absorbing concepts and knowledge that went beyond anything she had ever imagined. "And now?" she asked, feeling the weight of the responsibility about to fall on her shoulders. "Now," replied the Guardian, "you have a choice to make. You can join us, helping to guide humanity toward a future of harmony with the universe. Or you can return and forget all of this, allowing the future to follow its natural course." The group exchanged glances, each processing the magnitude of what was being offered to them. The fate not only of 3 Mile Island, but of all humanity was in their hands. "But remember," warned the Guardian, "the choice must be unanimous, and once made, there is no turning back." The silence that followed the Guardian's revelation seemed to carry the weight of entire galaxies. Emily looked at her companions, seeing in their faces the reflection of her own internal struggle. The enormity of the choice before them was overwhelming. "How can we be sure you're telling the truth?" questioned Victor, his voice trembling but firm. "How do we know this isn't some kind of alien manipulation?" The Guardian, in its ethereal form, pulsed softly. "Doubt is natural and wise, Dr. Reynolds. Allow us to show you." With a fluid gesture, the entity conjured a series of holographic visions around them. They were scenes from the past, present, and countless possible futures, all interconnected in a complex web of cause and effect. "See," explained the Guardian, "every choice, every action creates ripples in the fabric of space-time. The 3 Mile Island accident was a crucial divergence point, a moment that could lead humanity to destruction or transcendence. The images showed a future devastated by nuclear wars and environmental catastrophes, contrasting with another where humanity had reached the stars, living in harmony with other cosmic life forms. Anna, fascinated by the biological implications, stepped forward. "The radiation, it didn't just mutate life forms here, but opened a path for accelerated evolution, didn't it?" "Precisely," replied the Guardian. "What you see as contamination, we see as a catalyst. The exclusion zone has become a cosmic laboratory, setting the stage for a planetary-scale transformation." Samuel, who had been silent until then, finally spoke. "The symbols on the crystal. They're instructions for manipulating the very fabric of reality, aren't they?" The Guardian made a sound that could be interpreted as approval. "Your perception is sharp, Dr. Carter. The crystal is more than a tool. It is a key to unlocking the quantum potential of the universe." Michael, who had been observing everything with wide eyes, found his voice. "But what about the people? The lives affected by the accident, the displaced communities?" The entity turned to him, its form shifting into something vaguely resembling a human figure. "Your concern for others is commendable, Michael. Know that if they choose to join us, they will have the power to heal not only the environment but also the wounds of the past." Emily, feeling the weight of responsibility, stepped forward. "And if we accept, what exactly would we do? What would our role be?" The Guardian expanded, enveloping everyone in a warm embrace of light. "You would become the intermediaries between two worlds, the human and the cosmic. You would guide humanity through its next evolutionary phase, preparing it to join the galactic community." The images around them shifted again, showing a transformed Earth, cities harmoniously blending with nature, technologies beyond current imagination, and humans who seemed to radiate an energy similar to that of the Guardians. "But remember," the entity warned, "this change will not be instantaneous or easy. There will be resistance, fear, and misunderstanding. The path will be long and at times painful." Victor, who had been contemplative, finally spoke. "And if we refuse, what will happen?" "History will follow its natural course," replied the Guardian. "We will not interfere. The fate of humanity will rest entirely in your own hands." Emily looked at each of her companions, seeing in them the reflection of her own doubts and hopes. The decision they were about to make would not only affect their lives, but the future of the entire human species, and potentially Earth itself. "We need a moment," she said, turning to the Guardian. "A decision of this magnitude cannot be made lightly." The entity nodded, its form gently undulating. "We understand. We will await your decision by the rise of the next sun. Until then, reflect, discuss, ponder." The future awaits your choice. As the group gathered for the most important discussion of their lives, the sky above continued its cosmic dance, as if the stars themselves were eager to learn the fate of the small blue sphere we call home. The night stretched like a cloak of infinite possibilities over the exclusion zone. Emily and her companions gathered in a circle, surrounded by the luminescent forest and silently watched by the transformed animals. The weight of the decision before them was almost palpable in the air. "How can we even begin to process this?" murmured Anna, her fingers idly tracing patterns in the glowing grass. "We're talking about changing the course of human history." Samuel, who had been furiously scribbling in his notebook, looked up. "From a scientific standpoint, it's revolutionary. We could unravel the secrets of the universe, cure diseases, solve the climate crisis." "But at what cost?" interrupted Victor, his voice heavy with concern. "We would essentially be handing over the fate of humanity to beings we barely understand." Michael, who had remained silent, finally spoke. "I think about the people who lost everything because of the accident, the generations affected by the radiation. If we can fix that—" Emily watched the discussion, her heart torn. Each argument resonated within her, echoing her own doubts and hopes. She stood up, walking to the edge of the circle of light created by the glowing vegetation. "Perhaps," she began, drawing everyone's attention, "the question isn't whether we should accept or not. Maybe the real question is, are we ready for this responsibility?" A reflective silence fell over the group. In the distance, the ethereal song of the forest seemed to respond, a melody that spoke of infinite possibilities and unimaginable challenges. Suddenly, an intense light cut through the sky, descending toward the old power plant. The group jumped to their feet, watching in awe as the phenomenon unfolded. "Is that a portal?" whispered Anna, her eyes wide. Before them, a vortex of energy opened, revealing glimpses of other worlds, other realities. Creatures of impossible shapes and indescribable beauty could be seen on the other side, some waving in a universal gesture of welcome. The Guardian reappeared, its form now more defined, almost humanoid. "What you see," explained the entity, "is only a fraction of what awaits you. Each world, each reality has its own lessons, its own challenges." Emily took a step forward, feeling a courage she didn't know she possessed. "If we accept, how do we ensure we won't lose our humanity in the process?" The Guardian smiled, if such an expression could be attributed to a being of pure energy. "Your humanity, Emily Thompson, is precisely what makes you the perfect candidates for this task. We don't want you to lose it. We want you to expand it, to elevate it." Victor, who had been skeptical until then, seemed to reconsider. "What about the others? The billions who won't have this choice?" "You will be the guides," replied the Guardian. "The teachers. The ones who will pave the way for others to follow. It won't be an abrupt change, but a gradual evolution." Samuel, who had approached the portal, reached out his hand, almost touching the energy barrier. "It's fascinating. I can feel the knowledge flowing. It's as if the universe itself is calling to us." Michael joined him, his eyes reflecting the impossible colors of the vortex. "Think of how many lives we could save, how many mistakes we could correct." Anna, still hesitant, asked, "What if we make mistakes? What if somehow we make things worse?" The Guardian turned to her, his voice gentle. "Mistakes are part of the learning process, Anna Johnson. We do not expect perfection, but dedication and compassion." Emily looked at each of her companions, seeing in them the reflection of all humanity, their fears, their hopes, their dreams. She took a deep breath and said, "I think the time has come. We need to make our decision." The group gathered, forming an intimate circle. The first light of dawn began to tinge the horizon, marking the deadline set by the Guardians. "So," said Emily, her voice steady despite the emotion, "what will it be? Do we accept this new path, with all its risks and wonders? Or do we remain as we are, letting the future follow its natural course?" As the sun rose over 3 Mile Island, 5 scientists faced the most important decision in human history. The world waited, unknowing, for the outcome that would shape the destiny of generations to come. The rising sun painted the sky in shades of pink and gold, a spectacle that seemed amplified by the supernatural energy permeating the exclusion zone. Emily and her companions formed a tight circle, their hands joined in a gesture of solidarity and determination. "We must decide together," said Emily, her voice firm despite the evident emotion. "Our choice will affect not only our lives, but the fate of all humanity." Victor, the oldest and most experienced in the group, spoke first. "I have spent my life seeking answers. Now, facing the greatest question of all, I realize that knowledge comes with immense responsibility." He paused, looking at each of his colleagues. "I vote yes. We must accept this opportunity." Anna, still wrestling with her doubts, was next. "As a biologist, I have always dreamed of understanding the secrets of life. But this goes beyond anything I ever imagined." She took a deep breath. "I am afraid, but I also have hope. My vote is yes." Samuel, his eyes shining with the possibility of unraveling the mysteries of the universe, didn't hesitate. "Yes, 1,000 times yes. This is the chance to elevate not just our science, but our very existence." Michael, the youngest of the group, seemed to carry the weight of the world on his shoulders. "I think of all the lives we could save, all the mistakes we could correct." His voice trembled slightly. "Yes, we must try." All eyes turned to Emily. As the unofficial leader of the group, her decision carried extra weight. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the sensations of the transformed forest flow through her. "Since we arrived here," she began, opening her eyes to face her companions, "we have witnessed the impossible become reality. We've seen nature reinvent itself, defying everything we thought we knew." She paused, her voice gaining strength. "Now, it's our turn to reinvent ourselves, to evolve not just as scientists but as human beings. My vote is yes." A collective sigh swept through the group. The decision was made. The Guardian, who had been silently observing, spoke. "You have chosen the path of evolution. The journey ahead will be challenging, but filled with wonders beyond imagination." The cosmic portal pulsed, expanding. Creatures of light and energy emerged, extending what appeared to be hands in a gesture of welcome. "Before we take the next step," said Emily, turning to the Guardian, "what will happen to this place? To 3 Mile Island?" The ethereal being replied, "The exclusion zone will become a beacon of hope and transformation. The radiation that once brought destruction will be channeled to heal and regenerate. This will be the first of many transformation hubs around the planet." As it spoke, the surroundings began to change. The luminescent trees grew even taller, their leaves taking on impossible shapes that seemed to capture and purify the very light. The once barren soil sprouted with new life, plants of unknown species whose properties promised to revolutionize medicine and science. "What about the people?" asked Michael, concerned. "Those who were affected by the disaster, they will be the first to be healed," assured the Guardian. "Their transformation will inspire others, showing the world the potential of this new era." Emily stepped toward the portal, feeling cosmic energy flow through her. Her companions followed, each experiencing a unique transformation. Their bodies glowed with an inner light, their minds expanding to encompass knowledge and perceptions once unimaginable. "Remember," said the Guardian, its voice echoing not just in their ears, but in the very souls of the scientists, "you are the pioneers, the guides. The future of humanity depends on your wisdom, compassion, and courage." With one last look at the world they were about to change forever, Emily and her companions joined hands. Together, they stepped through the portal toward a destiny that would redefine what it means to be human. As the vortex closed behind them, the exclusion zone of 3 Mile Island pulsed with a new and vibrant energy. What was once a symbol of destruction had now become the cradle of a new era for humanity. On the horizon, the sun rose fully, its rays illuminating a world on the brink of an unprecedented transformation. The journey had only just begun, and with it, the dawn of a new era for all humanity. 5 years had passed since Emily and her companions crossed the cosmic portal. The world they left behind had changed in ways few could have predicted. The exclusion zone of 3 Mile Island, once a symbol of tragedy, had become a beacon of hope and innovation. Natalie Collins, a young journalist from Chicago, walked through the streets of Harrisburg, now unrecognizable. Crystalline trees stood where there had once been only desolation, their leaves capturing and purifying residual radiation. People walked freely, their bodies protected by a subtle bluish aura, a gift from the Guardians. "It's incredible," Natalie murmured to her guide, an elderly man named George. 5 years ago, no one would dare set foot here without protective suits. George smiled, his eyes gleaming with a wisdom that went beyond his years. What you see here, young Natalie, is just the beginning. The transformation of 3 Mile Island is a microcosm of what is happening across the world. They arrived at a grand building in the center of the city, the new Institute of Advanced Studies. Its walls seemed to pulse with energy, and intricate symbols danced across its surface. This is where, George explained, the teachings of the pioneers are studied and applied. Natalie hesitated at the entrance. The pioneers, Emily Thompson and the others, have they returned? George shook his head. Not physically, but their influence is felt every day. Come, let me show you. Inside the institute, Natalie was amazed. Holograms displayed scientific advancements that seemed straight out of a science fiction movie. Cures for diseases once considered untreatable, clean energy technologies that defied the known laws of physics, communication methods that transcended space and time. Every discovery, explained George, is an echo of the knowledge shared by the pioneers. They opened the doors to a universe of possibilities. Natalie observed a group of children in a classroom. Their eyes shone with an inner light as they manipulated energy fields with their minds. The new generations are born with abilities we once thought impossible, said George. Telepathy, telekinesis, expanded perception. We are evolving, Natalie. But not everything was perfect. In another room, Natalie saw maps showing areas of conflict around the world. There is still resistance, explained George, noticing her gaze. Not everyone is ready to embrace change. Some fear the unknown, others cling to the power they had in the old world. Natalie felt a tightening in her heart. So there are still wars? Conflicts, corrected George gently. But different from what we knew. The weapons are now ideas, and the battlefield is the collective consciousness of humanity. They arrived at a circular room at the top of the building. In the center, a crystal similar to the one Emily and the others had found pulsed softly. This is the core, said George reverently. Through it we can communicate with the pioneers and the guardians. Natalie approached, fascinated. Can I speak to them? George smiled. Even better, you can see. He made a gesture, and the crystal glowed intensely. Images appeared in the air around them. Natalie saw Emily and her companions, transformed into beings of light and energy, guiding humanity through the stars. She saw worlds beyond imagination, ancient and new civilizations, knowledge that made her mind spin. They are paving the way, George explained, so that one day all of us can join them. The images shifted, showing Earth seen from space. Natalie gasped. The planet shimmered with a bluish light, pulsing in harmony with the cosmos. This is our future, Natalie, George said softly. A future that is just beginning. As the images faded, Natalie felt tears in her eyes. She had come to 3 Mile Island in search of a story, but found something far greater, a vision of hope for all humanity. What happens now? She asked, her voice trembling with emotion. George placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. Now, my dear, you tell our story, so that others may understand, so that they may choose to join us on this cosmic journey. Natalie nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility and the thrill of possibility. As they left the institute, the sun set over 3 Mile Island, no longer a place of sorrow but a cradle of a bright future for all humanity. The sun rose over a transformed world. 10 years had passed since Emily and her companions had departed, and Earth pulsed with a new and vibrant energy. Natalie Collins, now a renowned journalist and spokesperson for the new era, climbed the steps of the Global Grand Council in Geneva. The imposing building, a fusion of earthly architecture and alien technology, seemed to float atop a lake of crystalline energy. Representatives from all nations of Earth gathered there to discuss humanity's next great step. Welcome, Natalie, greeted Amara, a tall woman with dark skin and eyes that gleamed with ancient wisdom. As the leader of the council, she bore the weight of decisions that would shape the future of the species. It's an honor to be here, Councillor Amara, replied Natalie, feeling the familiar tingling of excitement and nervousness. Together, they entered the grand hall, where hundreds of world leaders, scientists, and visionaries awaited. At the center of the room, A massive hologram displayed Earth and its immediate cosmic neighborhood. Amara took her place at the center of the stage and made a gesture. The hologram expanded, revealing an intricate network of interstellar portals that now connected Earth to dozens of other inhabited worlds. "Brothers and sisters of Earth," Amara began, her voice resonating through the hall, "we are here today to decide the future of our species. 10 years ago, 5 brave pioneers opened the doors to a universe of possibilities. Today we must choose whether to take the next step." Natalie observed the reactions in the room. There was anticipation, but also apprehension. Not everyone had fully embraced the changes of the past decade. "The Guardians have offered us a formal invitation to join the Galactic Federation," Amara continued, "an alliance of civilizations spanning millions of light years. But the decision must be ours, and it must be unanimous." A murmur swept through the assembly. Natalie knew that, despite incredible advancements, there was still resistance. Some nations feared losing their identity, while others still struggled with the social and economic transformations the new era had brought. Then something unexpected happened. The crystal at the center of the room began to pulse intensely, and 5 figures of light materialized. Emily and her companions, the pioneers, returning for the first time in a decade. Emily, her ethereal form radiating wisdom and compassion, addressed the assembly. "People of Earth, we have come to share our journey with you, to show what awaits us if we choose to evolve together." With a gesture, she expanded the hologram. Visions of wondrous worlds filled the hall, civilizations that had overcome war, famine, and disease, technologies that allowed shaping planets and traveling among the stars, beings of pure energy and consciousness, exploring the very frontiers of the universe. "But we have also seen the challenges," Victor continued, his voice echoing with the wisdom of 1,000 stars. "The power offered to us comes with great responsibility. We must grow not only in knowledge, but in wisdom and compassion." Anna, her form glowing with the essence of life, added, "The biodiversity we preserved in 3 Mile Island was just the beginning. There are entire ecosystems waiting to be discovered, forms of life that challenge our current understanding." Samuel, whose being pulsed with cosmic equations, explained, "The laws of the universe are vaster and more wondrous than we ever imagined. There are secrets waiting to be unraveled, realities beyond our current dimension." Finally, Michael, the youngest of the pioneers, spoke directly to the hearts of those present. "We have not come to pressure, but to inspire. The future we envision is one we build together, embracing our diversity and our shared humanity." The visions faded, and the hall fell silent. Natalie felt tears in her eyes, moved by the magnitude of the moment. Amara stood up once more. "Now we must decide. Do we accept the invitation of the Guardians? Do we take the next step in our cosmic journey?" One by one, the representatives rose. Voices from every corner of the planet rose, some hesitant, others firm, but all converging into a single answer: yes. The crystal at the center of the room shone brightly, and a portal opened, larger and more magnificent than any ever seen on Earth. Through it, glimpses of an infinite future awaited. Emily and the pioneers turned to the assembly one last time. "The path is open," said Emily, her voice filled with hope and promise. "But the journey is yours. Every step, every discovery, every challenge overcome will be a victory, not just for humanity, but for all life in the cosmos." As the portal pulsed, inviting humanity to its next great adventure, Natalie felt a hand on her shoulder. It was George, now a respected elder, his eyes gleaming with memories of 3 Mile Island. "See, my dear," he said softly. "From a place of tragedy, hope was born for an entire universe." Natalie nodded, her words capturing the sentiment of everyone present. "It's not an end. It's only the beginning." And so, with hearts full of courage and eyes turned toward the stars, humanity took its first step toward the cosmic destiny that awaited. End of story. Dear listeners, we hope the journey of Emily and her companions has touched your hearts and expanded your minds. To continue exploring the mysteries of the universe and the infinite possibilities that await us, we've prepared a special playlist with equally captivating stories about human evolution and cosmic discoveries. You can find it by clicking the link to your left. If this narrative has sparked your imagination and made you dream of extraordinary futures, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Every day, we bring unique stories that explore the complexity of existence and the limitless potential of humanity. What future do you envision for our species? What mysteries of the universe would you like to unravel? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your vision could be the inspiration for our next great adventure. Remember, just like Emily and the pioneers, each of us has the power to shape the future. May the stars guide your dreams, and may the courage to explore the unknown never leave your heart. Until the next story where new worlds and possibilities await us. 100 years had passed since humanity took its first step beyond the stars. Earth, once a lonely blue dot in the cosmos, was now the beating heart of an intergalactic network of worlds and civilizations. Aria Collins, great-granddaughter of Natalie, hovered in orbit around the space station 3 Mile Prime, her cosmic energy wings reflecting the light of a distant galaxy. At 25 Earth years old, Aria was considered a prodigy in the emerging science of dimensional tectonophysics, the art of shaping reality between worlds. Commander Collins, the voice of her personal AI, Ellen A, echoed in her mind. The space-time anomaly in Sector 7 is expanding again. Aria furrowed her brow, her violet eyes scanning the seemingly empty void ahead. To untrained eyes, there was nothing there but the stars. But Aria could see, could feel, the ripples in the very fabric of reality. Ellen A, initiate the Omega Containment Protocol and summon the Council of Guardians. They need to see this. With a fluid motion of her hands, Aria began weaving strands of pure energy, creating a complex web around the anomaly. It was delicate work. One mistake could tear the fabric of space-time. As she worked, her mind wandered to the stories her great-grandmother Natalie used to tell, stories of a time when humanity was confined to a single planet, fearful of what lay beyond. Stories of 5 pioneers who changed everything. A flash of light announced the arrival of the Council of Guardians. 5 beings of pure energy, each pulsating with the wisdom of a century of cosmic exploration. Aria Collins, the voice of Emily, the original Emily Thompson, resonated not through the air but directly in her consciousness. You called for us. Aria turned, still maintaining her focus on the containment net. Guardians. The anomaly. It's growing faster than we can contain. And there's something else. She hesitated, unsure how to express what she was feeling. Victor, his ethereal form pulsing with scientific curiosity, stepped closer. Go on, young Collins. What do you sense? Aria took a deep breath, letting her expanded perception flow. It's like an echo. Not from the past nor the future, but from somewhere beyond. As if something is trying to communicate with us through the very fabric of reality. The Guardians exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them in an instant. Aria, said Anna, her voice laden with both concern and excitement. What you're describing, it could be what we've been searching for decades. Our bridge to the multiverse. Samuel, whose form now seemed to contain infinite equations, added, if true, this changes everything, not just our understanding of the cosmos, but existence itself. Michael, the youngest of the original Guardians, addressed Aria directly, but it's also incredibly dangerous. If left unchecked, it could destabilize not only our universe, but all parallel universes. Aria felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. She was the best in her field, but this was beyond anything she had ever faced. What should we do? She asked, her voice steady despite the fear she felt. Emily approached, her presence bringing a comforting calm. We will guide you, Aria, but the final decision must be yours. You are the bridge between our generation and the next. The future, not just of humanity, but of all existence, may depend on your actions here and now. The anomaly pulsed, sending waves of energy that made Aria's containment grid tremble. Alarms rang in her mind, transmitted by Ellen A. Commander, the AI urged, we need to act now. Structural integrity is deteriorating rapidly. Aria looked at the Guardians, at the growing anomaly and at her own hands, now glowing with cosmic power. In an instant, she saw all the possibilities unfolding before her. Glory, destruction, discovery, chaos. With a deep breath, she made her decision. Guardians, I need your strength. Let's open a path. As the 6 most powerful beings in that region of the galaxy united their energies, preparing to leap into the unknown, Arya couldn't help but think, Grandma Natalie, I hope you're proud. We're about to write the next chapter of our cosmic history. And with that, they plunged into the anomaly, toward a destiny no being in their universe had ever dared to imagine.